good at StarCraft at this level as well. And I'm afraid for MilkiCow that Lambo is going to play very straight up, very defensive, and is just going to rush into 80+ rounds. And only then we'll start looking for damage. But let's see what this best of 3 has in store for us. The 4th one of the day. We have one more after this. I think that's going to be a little PvP between Jumi and Goblin. I'm pumped for that one. But first up, let's see if this man can cause an upset here today on the hard wire. It is the Red Terran player and MilkiCow.
The top right as the blue Zerg for Shopify Rebellion. It is a Lambo. Cool first. Little afraid of a 2-Rex.
I mean, that is how MilkiCow was able to defeat Raynor in that King of Battles qualifier that Vardy referred to earlier. MilkiCow had an absolutely fantastic run, and it's really funny if you now type in a league like MilkiCow Raynor. There's actually 2 choices. You can do Raynor's Zerg or Raynor's Protoss, and MilkiCow has a flawless record against both. 2-0 against the Protoss, 2-1 against the Zerg, 100% against Raynor. There are very few people on this planet that can say that, Zombie Grub.
It's probably the best player then. That's that TL thread. It's like best player on the planet. Need to put him up there. So yeah, I guess that is real threats, and Lambo might be thinking not just that I'll potentially get a real quick, easy, hard counter, but also might be thinking along the idea that he is overall the better player, and as long as he doesn't do anything silly, as you're referring to, just play defensive, then he is going to win. I do think that it's a little, it's mostly true. It's basically true that Lambo is probably just a better player. But I do think that there could be a little bit of a moment if Lambo is too defensive, too kind of just cautious, that MilkiCow hits a really strong, 3cc, 2-1-1, and Lambo is a little I was unprepared for that. That we could see MilkiCow gain some momentum. But I would say that it's kind of difficult to defeat the Zerg off of that first drop at any level. Well, maybe Beyond does it. But anyways, so I wouldn't say it would end the game. It would just give MilkiCow a lot of confidence. So we'll see how that goes. It's not a 3cc. It's actually a second gas already. But yeah, we'll see what the plan is for MilkiCow as he has to deal with a couple of lings.
And that is already an unfortunate start for our Terran player as he ends up losing an SCV to just a couple of slow lings. You really don't want to lose this second SCV. It should never happen. It should never happen. 1 ling and a dream. No, good SCV micro there. But still, even losing 1 is actually 1 too many.
It is. It is. You're supposed to be able to pull that SCV away once you see the 4 lings, but I guess that was just a real shock to him. It's certainly not in the meta anymore to go for the pool first to be offensive. There was kind of a month where it was kind of a thing. It is 100% defensive for T-Rex. So a little bit of a shock. I'd say what also sucks about that is that it did get into the main base. Obviously a little more chaos, but then actually confirming the second gas. That doesn't mean that Lambo knows exactly what's happening. It just does the check off for the 3cc, right? You don't have to worry about that. And you just get maybe spore crawlers, maybe default if you can't get a follow-up scout, which it looks like Lambo's not going to be able to do. That Marine is... It is there. I know you couldn't see it, but on the mini-map you can kind of see it. It is covering that Overlord.
One thing that also scares me a little for MilkiCow is that I think stylistically it's just a difficult matchup for him, because MilkiCow is actually a very honest Terran player. Sure, he throws in the 2-Rex every now and then, and Raynor's gonna hate me for calling him honest, but most of the time MilkiCow actually loves the late game. He plays a very complex, difficult style of Terran. He likes to go up to all the CCs, Ghosts, Liberators, but at that kind of stuff I feel like Lambo's almost invincible unless you're truly a top 5 Terran in the world. And so he is actually getting a little bit reckless here, and I don't hate it, just try to switch it up a little bit. Lambo has quite a few links on the way, but they're not all out yet. Really good drone movement though. That is insane by Lambo.
Yeah, that was a good idea actually. Lambo was going for much later speed, and yeah, there just wasn't enough links out to begin with. But what really sucked for MilkiCow is that 4th Hellion being off timed, because if the 4 Hellions are available, I think he's a little more confident. He does get 1 shot on the drones. Still not the barbecue that he's hoping for, but something. And instead, he got, I'm going to say nothing. 9 lings to me is just not, it's nothing. Especially at the sacrifice of the Hellions, all of the Hellions. He does not have follow-up Hellions, so now lings can control the natural, they can control the 3rd base. Banshee's not particularly, they're not supposed to be used in this situation. They're not good at it. It's just, that was actually really big. A lot of bad things ending with Lambo just feeling super confident and being super ahead.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest downsides of losing the heli is that now you can't even send your bench out on a little adventurous mission. You kind of have to wait, and now you still kind of want to wait because you want to make sure that you have a wall off just in case there are 20 additional links. We know it's not the case, but MilkiCow lost all vision, so he's got no idea if there are more links sharking around. Forced to keep these two banshees at home for way longer than he would like to, and that obviously makes it way less likely that they actually find any success on the other side of the map. So it's all tough, but I don't hate trying to be crazy. Sure, it didn't work out, but that's mostly just because Lambo had superb defense. These are the moments that actually normally sometimes give you those 8 drones early on that you're looking for, and then you can follow it up with some stronger pushes, and then maybe you can cause a crazy upset. So I really don't hate him for trying. It kind of backfired.
And to paint the optimistic, the picture that was supposed to be painted for MilkiCow, right? If you noticed, his third CC was late, and Lambo also would have noticed this because he actually got the additional barracks first, right? So the ideal situation, the beautiful picture that was supposed to be painted was he doesn't lose any SCV, he doesn't get scouted. The Reaper is buy some time. The Hellings follow up. They probably get a little bit of damage, and then they also take out a decent amount of links. Is probably the expectation. And because he has barracks up faster, he's not as afraid of losing access to his natural. Obviously, third CC being on location is kind of a delayed importance here. And instead, it's just like everything's scouted, everything's a little bit farther off. Unless Lambo really is not expecting this change up on the build, he's still kind of like, wait, a third CC was late? Wait, hold on here. Yeah, it just feels like Lambo should know everything and be able to respond to everything, and he does have enough units to respond to this.
Yeah, he's got 7 queens out, and the queens were in a perfect position earlier. Even though the Banshee micro was kind of sexy for a little while, in the end, both Banshees got picked off, and you could see it in the webcam of MilkiCow too, shaking his head, where he's like, well, that's like the third thing that really hasn't gone my way this time around. So now these Marines, they need to accomplish way more than they're supposed to. The tanks are already here as well. That's actually very quick. Lambo isn't going to dive on this immediately as the Marines were still a bit out of position. He might get one. He's definitely not going to get the second one. Sure, that's a tank pickoff, but that was a lot of circlings going down, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, it kind of felt like he thought he was going to find the 16 Marines unloading or something. And then he was like, oh, it's tanks. Oh, it's 2 tanks and a Marine. So that was a bit of an overcommittal for Lambo. He's going to have to buy a lot more time. I mean, Lambo is going to also have the option of maybe trying to force the third up, but he really needs to take care of this from behind with the Banelings as well. Yeah, it's going to force a pickup, and that is it for the push.
And now all the Marines are out of position, and Lambo did have a scouting link at the third. He could have seen that the doors are wide open. This is a very ambitious drop. Or at least load out by MilkiCow. Now all these units kind of stuck. If Lambo would grab these links and banes right now and send them towards the third, I actually think that would be very hard for MilkiCow to deal with after losing all the units that he has been losing so far in this game. Instead, the youngster still sticks around, tries to grab a queen, but there's just too much Zerk here, man. I think we really need to go home. We need to slow down. The man doesn't want to slow down. Lambo is floating a little bit, and that does go to show that MilkiCow is applying a lot of pressure, and he's even following this up with Liberators. So, gives me Cure flashbacks over here.
Lambo, after the cleanup, did start up 15 drones at once. That's a lot of larva used. That's a lot of cash used, even though he's banking still a little bit. And that is a type of maneuver that MilkiCow's kind of very much pressure build, right? Starting off with additional barracks a bit faster, is going to try and take advantage of. Doesn't look like it's going to happen, though. The tank is still kind of a necessary anchor, as good as your Marine control can be, or as many as you still have left alive. Yeah, it just is... It's always, it feels like a matter of time when you're on just pure Marines, right? Eventually the Banelings will form, eventually they'll get a good enough surround, and that means that you're not really finding a lot of success, even though you are maybe making Lambo sweat a little bit. Overall, you should be quite comfortable.
Yep, I definitely think he made him sweat a little and stress a little, but in the end, now Lambo does seem bulletproof. That money is low again. MilkiCow is just going to rally his Liberators around the map and try to harass multiple mineral lines at once. As he loses one of the medevacs towards the top left. That was almost empty though, so no Marines were inside of it. Maybe we can get like a lucky Marine cancel on that hatchery at the triangle location. And then at the same time, maybe the Liberators find some success because the Spore Crawler was a little bit out of position. So double Liberator in the main base, looking for some drone damage. And we are going to stim. We're going to try to take out that hatchery. If he can get that hatch, nice. It's not going to get it easy.
Lambo's not really responding though. Like his army was moving towards the middle and then just didn't Didn't move to the right. Looks like MilkiCow lost his drop to the top left. So I didn't see it on the minimap. I saw it in his camera. But he does get the hatchery. So there's something going well for him. The double Liberator got 6 drones. That's really not worth double Liberator. So, really the only thing going well is the medevac snipe. MilkiCow does have his 4th base moving on over, but his supply kind of in the gutter. Now we're going to have a serious lack of aggression. He is just totally on the defensive, and Lambo will start to apply his own pressure.
Yep. And if you look at what MilkiCow has at home, it doesn't look very intimidating. It's a lot of SCVs, 77 SCVs. That part looks all right, but then it's 2 tanks and then pure Marine. If we have a planetary here, that could help out a little bit. All the Marines have gone towards that potential planetary, and that means that the 2 tanks are sitting ducks. The sensor tower gets taken out. The last tank could very well get picked off too by the last few links, and kind of feel like this orbital is going to be in a bit of trouble. There's quite a few Hydras. There are still a couple of Banelings and a drone in the mix. Look at that drone go.
Hero drone, man. Hero drone. It does get sniped, as does the orbital commands. Those Hydras did have their range, even though they're working on their speed. Lambo still knew that he was going to have a decent shot at killing something at the 3rd base, and he killed everything at the 3rd base. Also 18 SCVs, as that planetary was not yet quite formed, and MilkiCow is still desperately hoping that something else goes, like something big goes wrong for Lambo. But so far, so good for the Zerg.
Observer, can we take a look at the planetary fortress real quick as a couple of Banelings are coming in? 9 additional SCVs going down. Really well played by Lambo. Kept those Lings around for as long as he could have. Then the planetary finished up, moves the Lings away, morphs them into Banelings immediately, and gets 9 extra SCVs. This is well done by MilkiCow as he guns down a couple of Banelings. And he has a few more units on the right side too. But normally as a Terran player, you really can't afford to be losing all your tanks and orbitals at the same time while the Zerg is going up to high.
MilkiCow is definitely holding on. All kudos to the young Terran, as his drops also, occasionally get a little fancy with these Spadeling snipes. Is really awesome to see. And this one barely escaping, but he is in a terrible position as far as supply goes. Pretty bad as far as economy, though it could be worse. 66 and 4 bases isn't actually too bad. The pacing wise, right? Like Lambo is going to have a lot of control over the map, over the game. His creep spread is not as bad as it could have been. MilkiCow's drops are at least succeeding in stopping that.
Yeah, but now we're going to get 8 Lurkers, and Seismic Spines is done. We are waiting for the Lurker speed upgrade so they can be a little bit quicker, but I just don't see a universe in which MilkiCow is able to defend the first Lurker attack. The only thing that MilkiCow could hope for is that Lambo's like, oh, it's hardwire. Maybe I shouldn't attack. I have a very hard time believing that, because Lambo too, just like Gabe, has excellent game sense. He knows when he can end the game. And if you ever want to see Lambo angry, it's hard. But Lambo gets pretty pissed when people don't leave games when he feels like it's ultra over. And he likes to just end it when he feels like he can end it. Look at all those Lurkers. 0 goals, 0 Liberators, 0 tanks. And no, we have 6 tanks. And where are those tanks even? Yeah, they're all around the orbiter at the 3rd. But that planetary is in a world of trouble. A crazy amount of Lings and Banes are ready to pounce on this. And Lurkers in the left. And I think this is all she wrote for game number 1.
Should be a 1-2 punch to victory. Planetary and building command center. And there you have it. MilkiCow doesn't even really take a fight with his army. He just taps out. So makes sense. He was in a losing position kind of since the first Lings got into his main. I mean, absolutely there's a world where that's like the only thing that happens wrong and everything else goes brilliant for the guy. But yeah, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Everything was scouted. Everything was interrupted. Everything was taken care of. And even though he did, play out 14 minutes of this game and made it look okay, he was never really all that okay.
Yep. Even in the games where he loses in a somewhat one-sided manner, you can still see that MilkiCow is a very good player because he is comfortable with multiple medevacs out on the map, and he's actually babysitting all of them. He's trying to get trades, but he was sweeping leaves on a windy day in this one. After the Hellions didn't get anything done, and then the Banshees are forced to stay home way longer than they ever want to stay home. It's like by the time you kill 6 drones with the Banshees, Lambo already has way more drones than he would normally have, so that hurts a little bit less for Lambo. And then, from bad to worse means that both Banshees end up going down too. You lose even more map presence, map vision. It just wasn't quite meant to be. Game 2 though, Curious Minds, again sneaking into a best of 3. I'm gonna ask Lambo about this one. So Lambo must really hate Berlingrad and Blackburn, I assume, right?
Trying to look.
Yeah.
Ban, Berlin, Ban, Blackburn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess so. All right. Well, we're gonna get into it then. I do think that if MilkiCow had a little less scouted, a little less interrupted, his build is kind of a real like fury of attacks. Basically, it's fury swipes. You know, the Hellion, the Reaper into the Hellion, into the Banshee, into the much faster 2-base follow-up could really offset a worse Zerg. But is he going to try and do that again? I mean, I actually could see him do it. I feel like the 2-base Terran is kind of making a comeback.
I'm feeling the proxy barracks, man. If we could take out Reyna with it, we could take out anyone. Come on, give us a show. In the top left side of Curious Minds, traditionally a Terran favorite map. We are looking at the main base of our German Zerg, representing the Shopify Rebellion. His teammate already got the W today. Can he follow? It is Lambo.
In the bottom right, representing Alien Esports, he's the red Terran, MilkiCow.
Fun fact about Lambo, which I'm sure you know, but maybe some people out there don't know, is that he is honestly the only StarCraft 2 player that I know that plays with the Razer Naga. And that is that weird World of Warcraft mouse that was introduced many years ago that has 9 buttons on the side to cast all these silly things. In World of Warcraft, but Lambo uses it to control some of his Vipers and some of his Infestors, and he just can't play with any other mouse. When I saw that thing being released, I was like, oh my goodness, that thing is atrocious. I can't imagine anyone ever buying with it. Well, or anyone ever buying it or playing strategy games with it. But apparently Lambo is a die-hard 9-button mouse fan.
It's very funny considering how many other pro gamers are going with the like holes cut into the mouse, so it's super lightweight and very basic. Very much the opposite. You know, while you were telling that story, I mean, I was listening, but I was also looking at MilkiCow's camera because we have a 2-rack, kind of just waiting for a first Marine to pop out. He looked disappointed even though nothing had happened. I'm pretty sure he did the build correctly, and Lambo had not scouted it for a while, but he does not look happy about how this game has gone. And he's hoping that the 2-racks will reset his momentum. Now, if he doesn't want to look happy, that makes sense. He's going to realize it's a 16 pool, and that's not going to work out well for his 2-racks.
I mean, he already saw the timing, right, on the hatchery. Maybe that's why he didn't look happy, or was it before that?
It was before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, I mean, he's actually looking much calmer now, weirdly enough. I guess he's just in his own brain without much else to do, just waiting for the barracks to finish. So now he's hyper-focused. Very small note. It just doesn't give a lot of confidence for the rest of the series.
Maybe he had one of those angel demon moments, you know, where one angel is like, come on, man, it's Curious Minds. You can just play a solid macro game. You can do this. And then the devil is like, 2-racks, man. If you take a Reyna, you can take out anyone. And then he listened to the devil, and suddenly while he's doing this, he's like, man, I'm already disappointed. What if this is a disaster? What if he does go pool first and I don't get anything done? I'm putting myself behind already on one of the better maps that I'm ever going to play in a best of 3 against Lambo.
Yeah. Maybe that was it. And, well, the devil on his shoulder was a true devil. It just put him into a really awkward position. Although that's also awkward. Lambo is quick to build another Overlord to replace it, but that's 100 minerals, a larva, and a very tight first 3-minute build for a Zerg player. That is annoying. But MilkiCow, like I said, it's kind of weird. He's transitioning out of a failed 2-racks, really, with more confidence than I would have expected, considering his camera in the beginning, and 3cc too, so not just like his camera, right guys, and that confidence, literal confidence in the game. 3cc, I'm gonna get away with it. Lambo is not gonna try and punish me after that. Let's go to the macro game, and if it's seamless, then it's actually all fair. If especially if Lambo doesn't know it's on the way and doesn't know he can punish it, doesn't know he can take advantage of it. Without the Overlord, he's not gonna know.
He does have the Reaper out, and he obviously saw Lambo going up to 3 bases. Lambo did a good job zoning with the Queen. At first I was like, where the hell is that Queen going? But I was like, I guess Lambo just wants to get that hatchery up without any issues. It is pretty cool to at least get a Reaper out after a failed 2-racks, or I mean, it's almost mean to call it a failed 2-racks because it never even really got going, right? He just looked at it and he's like, nope, this is not the build or the scenario where I want to commit or where I want to be a dreamer. So he just gave up on it immediately.
Yeah, can you be a college dropout if you just didn't apply for college in the first place? Probably not.
Did you fail college if you never made it in?
Exactly. Big brain. It is weird to say it, but it is true. I mean, and it's also kind of weird to say it because certainly with Mario the past 5 years proving that 2-racks can just be an opener, calling it failed seems really, really harsh. And especially too if it even just kind of offset the Zerg. But in this case, Lambo is very much preparing pool first against this guy, that's not going to be what really sets him off. What could throw him off is the follow-up. You know, Lambo does not have the vision that he'd usually have with the Overlord, so of course he did just see the, actually he got up to the main. Did he see the, that was with the factory building, right? Not the barracks buildings, that just swapped off. So yeah, he doesn't actually know what the follow-up is. He just didn't see any Hellions. That's the only indication of something that he's, you know, kind of figuring things out.
What I do like about Lambo, and it also just goes to show how mature he has become as a player, is that he's full of confidence, where he's just like, I know MilkiCow is good, but if I make it up to 7, 8, 9 minutes into this game, I get 4 bases, a bunch of creep, and I get 80 plus drones, I am going to win. So he just goes pool first in both games because he knows that this youngster on the other side of the map has a very mean 2x opening up his sleeve and has got some of the best Zergs in the world off guard with it. And Lambo's just like, I'll take that tiny deficit in a macro-oriented game if he is just macroing, because I believe in my skills in the late game, and I do love that.
See if it works out. This is, you know, weirdly enough, with the 2 racks being what it was, I still like this position kind of for MilkiCow, not as much as like Lambo. It's just that I think this is a place where he thrives, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, like he's got his 2 medevacs. He was able to, as I said, seamlessly go into his 3cc build. The double drop's actually not working out, so that kind of sucks, but it's still a place where I think MilkiCow thrives. He's got his units. He's going to be able to get his 3rd CC on location. And we'll see if this constant aggression can pan out well. Now that there's not really been anything on his side of the map. Where that last game, it was a lot of things going wrong on his side.
I always get very nervous when they pick up the Marines in a medevac that has 6 HP, but he gets away with it, and he did manage to pick up 2 queens there, so that's a little victory. But that's like the only little victory, though. Like, I feel that he really can't do much at this point. Lambo is booming. He's on 63 workers. 4 bases are going to be finishing up in the near future. Medevac so low on HP. MilkiCow really needs to be careful. All it takes is 1 or 2 hits with these queens to pick those up. Upgrades the tiniest overleads for MilkiCow, but I have to admit I'm not really feeling it.
Actually, you know, if MilkiCow saves his 2 medevacs and the Marines, of course, in them, which I really hope he does, and he pairs up with tanks. Okay, there goes the 1 medevac. And he pairs up with tanks. I mean, he's going to be hitting not necessarily with an upgrade lead, but against someone who does not have Baneling speed, right? Like, I actually think that would work out okay as far as applying a lot of pressure to Lambo. Lambo is double expanding, though, so even as I watch this move out, and I'm like, oh, slow Banelings, it kind of sucks. Lambo could, at the end of the day, probably just give up the base without contesting it and be okay.
Yeah, this is one of these scenarios where they go from 3 to 5 bases, and even if you end up losing one of the hatcheries, it is okay. MilkiCow is deep on creep, and once more finds a couple of little victories there with his Marines. So Lambo, I felt like, had a little opening with his links at the 3rd base of MilkiCow, because most of the units were out of position. But instead, he decides to hide them, and he's going to morph a couple of these links into Banelings. This could be the slow Baneling run-by that we all love.
I think it might just work. There is no attempt at a wall to that left side. Actually, a little bit more on the Sim City on the front than that. And of course, MilkiCow is going to be totally focused on this left side attack, seeing a lot of promise in it, seeing that the Banelings are still slow. He's going to really want to try and push the issue, and that means he is not paying attention at the last second. He manages to pull away, so instead of 15 SCVs, it's 10, but still a nasty loss. And it's not guaranteed he's going to make headway on this 4th base either.
It would have probably been better for Lambo to send the first Banelings in a little bit deeper when MilkiCow is not responding, but obviously it was still pretty good. Slow Banelings are still kind of an issue, though. MilkiCow is getting big victories now on the left side as Lambo is setting up the flank. He does get on top of the tanks. Baneling speed will finish up in 4 seconds, but it's not in time. And MilkiCow picks up every single Baneling. He's got the upgrade advantage. Lambo needs a Baneling connection now, or at least needs to buy some time. There's another Baneling run by the 3rd, and this one is also going to be decent. But wow, the Orbital is actually running low on HP. That's dicey.
Yeah, that is dicey, but that's funny. The Banelings did not cloud on the SCVs. They clouded on a tank that survived. And 5 SCVs is certainly better than the alternative, which looked like all 16. Even MilkiCow starting to feel it, right? He knows that he's got his advantage. It's not game over yet. The last couple of Banelings forming did save Lambo's life, and the tanks were destroyed, right? So we're missing that anchor. But MilkiCow has actual room to play with. He might be forced to pick up once again here with a 4th base on the way. It's another playable game. He would have loved to have won right then and there, right? No more Banelings, no more Lambo, but he gets to play this one out. Oh, well, maybe I spoke too soon.
We're definitely in a bit of trouble because all the Marines are still stuck in these medevacs. So this Orbital is forced to live. There is one safety tank on the high ground that's actually dealing a lot of damage to those SCVs as well. Lambo, of course, can't just throw away everything, and he must know that as he lost more than a handful of Zerglings there. That Orbital has now been burning for a solid couple of minutes. But MilkiCow, I like how he repairs it for like 100 HP, and he's like, yeah, that will do. You know, the duct tape solution.
Yes. Slap on the duct tape. It's good enough. That will be scary. That will be scary. And the planetary is not quite done, so an attack on the right side is going to be very annoying. To have to cancel it, lose the resources, then lift it, lose the SCVs, actually even just that were transferred there. MilkiCow has lost that momentum that he was building. It was such a hopeful 20 seconds when he killed those last few banelings, but Lambo's economy and his macro really started to kick in, right? End of the day, he was on 5 hatcheries. Right, the other 5th just kind of being there, even as a larva base, was totally fine. And he just needed to wait for banelings to form and lings to pop. And the MilkiCow, yeah, he definitely had one shining moment. It is quickly disappearing. Quickly disappearing.
That is very sad there, as the command center that was morphing into a planetary fortress gets picked up by Lynx. I'm totally with you though, when he picked up those final few bangs, it was like, MilkiCow, he got all the queens. Because sometimes you just have these moments where the Marines don't need to run anymore. They can just stay there forever. They keep on stimming, they keep on getting healed up. Unfortunately, MilkiCow was just shy of that with a few units. And at this point, I feel like the swarm is truly here. Everywhere we look, it feels like Lambo's got 80 Zerglings and a handful of banelings to back it up. More SCVs are going to go down. The tanks are going to get surrounded as well by a couple of these lings. And I don't think that MilkiCow is going to hang in this one a whole lot longer.
Nope. Would have had to have, and he agrees, there you go. Would have had to have kind of stopped that first run by